This week on HomeKit News, the ZemiSmart LED Spotlight and COB Light Strip with metre. Welcome back everybody. Today we're looking at a couple of new products from ZemiSmart, the first of which being this smart LED light, which is actually a spotlight, although we're looking at this specific model today. These lights boast a colour rendering index of 95, which is a measure of how close the source light is to mimicking natural daylight, with 95 being as close as you can probably get. The second product we're looking at today is a metre compatible LED light strip, although this is a COB light strip, which also includes a separate driver. Like the spotlight, this uses metre over Wi-Fi. We'll come back to the strip later, but for now let's have a look at some of the specs for the spotlight, so pause the video if required. So there are two versions of the model I'm looking at today, which offer different beam angles. It is metre over Wi-Fi using the 2.4 GHz band and will work with all voltage standards with a rated power of 12 watts. I actually have two of these spotlights here, and as you can see from the sides of the boxes, one of them offers a beam angle of 36 degrees, whilst the other lists just 24 degrees. The difference depends on your taste, but here's an image to demonstrate those differences. I'll be testing the model with a beam angle of 24 degrees. Let's now have a look at the contents quickly. Now, there's really only the one thing, and that's the light and the driver, which are already connected to each other. The driver itself is the metre compliant part, which is where you'll find the metre QR code. The neutral and live wires at the end then need to be connected to existing wires in your ceiling space. What makes these spotlights particularly interesting is that you can adjust the beam angle to your liking with anywhere between 0 and 30 degrees. You can also adjust the way the beam faces simply by turning the mounting bracket like so. The LED light itself can also be accessed by rotating the lamp portion. Now the spotlight also has a rather large heat sink to prevent it from getting too hot, as these types of lights tend to do, although of course you won't see this part of the light. The LED bulb is covered by a frosted diffuser layer to soften the beam a little bit too. As the spotlight is recessed by 72mm, the beam is concentrated whilst also protecting you from glaring light at an angle, although that depends on how high you mount it as well, of course. Now, I already have a pair of Aqara compatible tube lights installed where these spotlights could have possibly gone, and they took ages to install, so I'm not going to remove these. Instead, I've got a large drywall tile that I'll be cutting a hole in to test the light out. I've attached a plug to the wires, so I'll feed everything through this newly cut hole and secure the light in place. So this is how it would look fitted. You will need to power cycle the light a few times to get it into pairing mode, which will make it flash a few times. It's already added to Apple Home now, and the first thing to note is that whilst this does offer warm to cool whites, it is unfortunately not compatible with adaptive lighting. The light goes from 2700 Kelvin, which is warm white, all the way to 6000 Kelvin, which whilst not quite the coolest white you can get, is more than adequate. I've set up presets to show you the light at 100% warm, 75%, 50%, 25%, and then just 2%. You can actually get as low as 1 or 2%. Cool white is present and is more than blue enough for most use cases in the home, so there's no worry in that respect. There are also no additional options offered other than the standard colour picker and slider, as well as the ability to share the light to other metre platforms via the turn on pairing mode option. The light itself has a preset fade that can't be adjusted, so you can see it gently fade to on or off as opposed to doing so instantly. Even though there's nowhere to fit these permanently, I've managed to jerry-rig something to demonstrate the light and how the angle adjustment option looks. So here it is at 0 degrees, and when adjusted to the full 30 degrees, you see a very notable difference. Moving on to the COB Light Strip now, and whilst I unbox it, here are the specs to the side. So in the box you get the strip itself, which can be either 5 or 10 meters in length, depending on which version you choose. You also get a power adapter that connects to the driver. There are mounting clips and screws, as well as some end caps if you need to trim the strip. And finally, this is the driver itself, which can also be purchased separately. Like the driver for the Spotlight, this driver is also the actual matter compatible component. I've now connected the power supply to the driver and the driver to the strip via the 3 wires. Just as an aside, here is a typical LED strip that has individual visible LEDs. Just to clarify, this particular one is a colour light strip. Now, if we look at the COB strip, you can see the LEDs are much smaller and closer together, resulting in more uniform lighting, as you'll see shortly. So here's the driver with the matter QR code you'll need, and the strip comes with these 3 wires. The yellow wire goes to either of the W ports, the white to either of the C ports, and the brown to the V+. If you get the 10 metre version, you'll connect the wires from the second strip to the remaining ports. So for this test, I've got a standard smart LED strip here alongside the COB strip. I'll first turn the standard strip on and set it to warm white, and as expected, you see the individual LEDs quite clearly. If I now turn the COB strip on, you can see the LEDs create a constant strip of light with no discernible individual LEDs visible. I'll set them both to cool white now, just for reference, and the results are pretty much the same. Just like many other light strips, the COB strip does have cut markers for you to trim it, with each cut mark being 5 cm or 9.7 inches apart. If you plan to have your light strips somewhat hidden like I have here, then standard LED strips are fine, and individual LEDs are of course not an issue as they're not visible. But if you plan to use a strip for more direct light, then this COB light strip will be more pleasing. Onto the pros and cons, starting with matter, and even though they use Wi-Fi, you don't need a separate hub or third-party app to use these, as long as you're okay with using Wi-Fi to begin with. For the Spotlight, the build quality is quite impressive for a ZemiSmart product, although they've been improving products across the board lately anyway. Still, these do feel well made. For the strip, as already outlined, if you want continuous light as opposed to individual beads of light, a COB strip is the obvious solution, as long as you only need white. The 30-degree angle option could be pretty useful for highlighting shelves or display cabinets, so this is a welcome extra in my opinion. The only slight downsides are that there's no adaptive lighting offered. This is only a minor issue, and one that only affects Apple Home users of course. Finally, it would have been great to see Thread used here, but it's still true that Thread is an unknown entity for many out there, even if they might have a Thread border router and not realise it. In these cases, Wi-Fi is much more familiar. However, in all honesty, I won't be using the spotlights as there's nowhere to put them, and there's nowhere to put the LED strip either, and even if there was, I'd much prefer matter over thread if I'm totally honest. So that's our brief look at these two new ZemiSmart devices. Are either of these the types of devices that you can find a home for? And if so, let me know in the comments section below. Don't forget, if you have any questions, do let me know and I'll always endeavour to reply. If you enjoyed this week's video, please do give it a like, do share if you can, and most importantly, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. In the meantime, stay safe, and I'll leave you with this week's words of wisdom, this time reportedly from Louis Buñuel, who said, "Age is something that doesn't matter unless you're a cheese." I guess I'm a cheese.